half-jokingly say, I don't want to misquote you. If I'm going abroad, I never go business class. I never, if I'm paying for it, I never go first class. I only go to economy class. And more than that, actually, Dhishan, if there was a lower price and I could just stand on the aisle or go on the footboard of a plane, if there was a footboard to a plane, I'd go on that. Is that actually reflective of? Do you think that's reflective of the way you think about the way you spend money for yourself?
That's my Tamil upbringing.
It's so funny because with wealth, Sri Lankan culture, I suppose South Asian culture in general, wealth is such a taboo topic, no one really talks about it. So as a pastor, I feel like lots of couples who come to us to get married, and one of the things we always advise them not to do is don't overextend yourself with finances. So in our culture, you've got to have the best wedding, and even if you can't afford it, you'll get into debt, take a mortgage, whatever, to have a really good wedding. But also in the same culture, you never to ask someone about their salaries because that's taboo. You don't talk about it. Yeah? And so wealth is this interesting. It's interesting that it's so important to everyone, but no one really wants to talk about it. I can remember you always, half-jokingly say, I never, if I can afford it, I don't want to misquote you, but if I can afford it, if I'm going abroad, I never go business class. I never, if I'm paying for it, I never go first class. I only go to economy class. And more than that, actually, Dhishan, if there was a lower price and I could just stand on the aisle or go on the footboard of a plane, if there was a footboard to a plane, I'd go on that. Is that actually reflective of? Do you think that's reflective of the way you think about the way you spend money for yourself?
That's my Tamil upbringing. No, but the reality is this: we've been made to understand and made to believe and brought up with a strong sense of stewardship. And so how you spend your money, it's not about how you earn your money, that is also there, but how you spend your money is even more important.
Sure.
And what you spend your money on. And so therefore it's coming down to what I believe is stewardship, and that sits well with my religious beliefs now, but it also was my belief before.
Because it's interesting because I know many people won't know this, but I know this and I won't embarrass you by relating the details, but I know that you are...
Embarrassing me enough as it is.
I know you're incredibly generous with people, and it's not the kind of generosity that people know about. So you're very secretive about it because you don't want the credit for it. So you're obviously not stingy with your money, but you're also very, what do you say, you're a good steward. You're not extravagant with it either. And so I think that's quite it's an interesting way to look at it. Do you think, as you've got wealthier, that the way you view money has changed? And more importantly, I suppose, your children grew up in a home which I assume you had more wealth than you had when you were growing up. So they actually have more options. And part of being a parent, and my child is obviously very young, he's 2 years old, we want a better life for our children than we had ourselves, right? And that's obviously not only financial, but do you have any concerns about some of the challenges and maybe the temptations they will have that you didn't have to even deal with because it was an issue for you? And how are you thinking about that when you parent?
So, the temptations and other issues that a child today faces is something else. But when it comes to lifestyle, so just to give you an example, and this is coming back to stewardship, what I believe is stewardship, because I believe that if you have been blessed with something, you also have a responsibility to use it wisely.
Sure.
And so my brother and I, for example, we had the identical pay package. And for 9 years, we had the identical pay package with no increment for 9 years.
Sure.
Was it that we were then going through a hard time? No. It was a very generous pay package, but there was no increment for 9 years. So it was a constant pay package from 2006 to whatever, 2005 or some such thing. No, what am I saying? 2015, something like that. Is it that we could not afford to give ourselves increments? No, it's almost like we put ourselves in a straitjacket so that we limit ourselves in what we do personally and spend personally, because I think there's a responsibility. one of the inspirations I had in that respect was actually Warren Buffett. And this is not today, this is not yesterday, this is 30 years ago. I was still in England and I read an interview with Warren Buffett, and he was saying, he made a comment to the interviewer saying it's not about the money. And the interviewer asked him, then what about the money? What about the wealth? And he said, that's just a means of keeping score of how well you played the game. So your position shows you how successful you have been. It's a measure of success. And in some ways, that has influenced me. Any possible value addition to the enterprise value or the business value is just a means of keeping score, how successful you have been in doing what you're doing. And that is something I want to be, and that's what I think most people would want to be.
How do you transfer those values to your children? How are you all thinking about you and Abby?
How have we thought about it? So growing up, we never got pocket money. Growing up, we never got presents at Christmas. Growing up, we never got birthday presents. Growing up, we hardly ever had a birthday party. I had 2. For my 21st birthday, I had 5 people. So we try to inculcate those same stingy habits in our children. So my children had parties. Their mother enjoys having parties for them, but it was limited. It was never at the grand scale that perhaps I could have afforded, but you control what you do. So they ran to school and back in Maruti cars. It's not that I couldn't afford a better car, but I didn't want them to grow up thinking that they can go in whatever car they like. So they would go in a Maruti car. I had 2 Marutis for the boys and the girls. They went in different directions, and sent them in 2 Maruti cars, because I did not want them to go away with the impression that they could have the best of everything. So my older daughter, when I first allowed her a phone, which was at the age of 13, I gave her a budget of 12,500 rupees for a phone. Work within that budget. In fact, until my son got an iPhone now at 21. Before that, I didn't think he was deserving of an iPhone. So that's just my way of parenting. Others may agree, others may disagree. But each one has to find a state of play that works for them.
So, if there's one thing, what's the most important thing you have learned between the first child and the fourth child?
Don't have so many.